Welcome to week 13, Ronde and Tiki presented by SuperBook. Ronde, another firing. There's probably a lot more to come by the time it's all said and done and Black Friday comes around. I don't know if we're going to even get to Black Friday with some of these situations, but are you surprised by what happened in Carolina with Frank Reich? I'm a little bit surprised, especially because they just drafted a quarterback, right? When you draft a quarterback and you're a new coach, you tend to survive at least a couple of years with that quarterback, right?
Well, before we get to that, you're burying the lead on the biggest story of the week.
Which is?
Congratulations, Tiki Barber, for being a semifinalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
You didn't want to talk about that. We get so used to talking only about me in Hall of Fame. I got to throw it back on you, man. Congratulations, dude. How does it feel? First time in 12 years. First time in 12 years.
I'm humbled. There's no expectation. I'm just glad to be in the conversation. Rich Ackerman, who is my update guy at WFAN, all he does every week is ply me with more and more statistics on why I should be in the Hall of Fame, including the latest one, which I was not even aware of the 15 running backs that have been in the last, 20 or so years.
Mm-hmm.
The total availability percentage, I would be fifth, 96.25% of the games I played in, just behind LaDainian Tomlinson, who was 96.5% of the games that he played in. Wow. The best ability is availability.
Right. That is the nerdiest answer I've ever heard.
Dude, that's Rich Ackerman, bro. That's just one of like 30 that he's given me over the years, including the one that you mentioned at your Hall of Fame speech, which you attributed to Kenny Albert. That was actually Rich Ackerman giving it to Kenny Albert, and I didn't even know it until 3 weeks before he presented it. Oh yeah, you have 1,000 yards return yards as well. Like, oh, really? Okay. I guess I was a specialist for a couple of years.
Right. Way to state your case. Good job. All right. So back to this firings. Yes, this is the beginning, I think, of the wave. I think there's a couple of coaches. Commanders don't like to do things in season. There's a couple other teams that will not do it in season that we know. But like, are the Chargers, right? New England, are the Chargers going to make a move? I mean, the teams that came in with high expectations and are now bust, you expect the firings. But to your point, the Carolina Panthers, first-year head coach, only been through 11 games. They're not playing terrible on defense. Their problem is their handpicked quarterback is not performing. And it's easy to say that because they're losing games, but legitimately when you put the film on, the kid is not ready for the NFL. I don't know if he ever will be. He might turn into something that we don't know at this point, but the reality is he's not playing enough, well enough for any coach to have succeeded in that situation. And Frank Reich becomes the GOAT of it. And that's unfortunate for him because we all like him. Frank's a great guy, great coordinator. He's been a great coach in this league for years, obviously a great player back in the day. But I don't know if anybody can get that deal right in Carolina with what they have on offense right now.
Well, I think the problem ultimately is fit. So Frank Reich is more old school than we want to give credit to.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He wants to run the ball. He wants to play action. He wants to do these traditional stay in the tackle boxes and play quarterback. The problem is that's not Bryce Young.
No.
Right? He is an undersized quarterback, 6'1"-ish, maybe. He's probably less than that. He's probably 5'11" and not very stout. So holding up in the pocket is not his forte. And so the only way to make him successful on the NFL level is to move the pocket. He's like Russell Wilson light, right? Yeah. Move the pocket, let him make decisions as he's on the move. He throws the ball really well on the move. We saw it when he was in Alabama. But this, to me, you nailed it, though. It feels like fit, but it's because David Tepper hand-selected Bryce Young because for whatever reason, let's call it the South influence, right? They're in Carolina, Alabama's not that far away. He wanted this kid to succeed. It's just the wrong fit. And so they make an in-season change. It's hard to get fired after 12 weeks. But
I agree.
There must have been something egregiously wrong. Surprising, but honestly, not surprising.
Well, I'll add some commentary to this too. Their defensive coordinator has a dubious distinction now. Ejiro Evero
Yes.
his back-to-back seasons. I don't know if this ever happened. Not making it
I
through.
didn't even think about that, dude.
Not making it through a season with their head coach. He was defensive coordinator in Denver last year.
Yeah, with
Comes
Nate
to
Hackett.
Carolina, and both coaches get fired. I'm not laughing at you, Ejiro. It's just an unfortunate coincidence.
Well, hell,
So,
they should give him the job.
well, he's young. He's only his second year as a coordinator.
Dude, hire a great offensive coordinator, like a head assistant head, whatever.
We're not going to sit here and say who should have that job, but I don't know if he's ready. But I would love to see it. He's a great coach. You know, he'll be a great coach in this league wherever he ends up now. So in the interim, they they appoint the special teams coordinator, likely because he's the only other guy that talks to all 53 guys on the roster, and it allows the coordinators on offense and defense to really just maintain doing their job. So this week, for all that y'all that are gluttons for mediocrity, we're talking Bucks Panthers game, but I guess Panthers at Bucks. Bucks are 5.5-point favorites in a game after which they have lost 6 of 7. That's, if you want to bet that thing, go right ahead. Have fun with that one.
Well, the problem is I don't see the firing the coach bump happening in Carolina, right? You know what I mean? It's like sometimes it's like, oh, we fired a coach. We didn't like him. Get him out of here. Antonio Pierce and with the Raiders, right? You saw the bump. I don't think that's going to happen. And Tampa's not bad enough for them just to lose to a bad team.
Right. The Antonio Pierce bump was because they played both New York teams. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Especially when the Giants were playing really, really bad. They've since kind of increased their production. Right. Stabilized their situation a little bit. But yeah, I don't see this bump either. So if I'm not even being a homer here and saying I'm taking the home team.
Yeah, I would take the home team as well.
All right. So the other one, talking about bad teams, is we mentioned them already, the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, is it getting harder and harder to justify what Brandon Staley is trying to do with this football team? They are the worst. Statistically and visually, however you want to look at it, they are the worst defense in the NFL. Legitimately, they're 32nd in the NFL in total defense and 32nd in pass defense. And they get their reward for being the worst is going to play the Patriots, who are probably also the worst offense in
Are they
football.
even trying the Patriots? I question that.
It's a good question.
I mean, honestly, I am. I mean, the yo-yo with the quarterback, whether it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, and there's all of this speculation that Bill Belichick is going to get fired. Now, he's not going to get fired, and here's the reason why. He just quietly, remember this came out like 3 weeks ago, signed an extension in the offseason, a 3-year extension. Now, why would Robert Kraft do that if he had no intention of holding on to Bill Belichick in the long term? Leverage for when a team wants to hire him next year. And so they're going to hold on to him all year long. And when whoever, let's say it's the Carolina Panthers and most likely the Los Angeles Chargers, come to the Patriots, Robert Kraft, and say, we want your head coach, he's going to be like, all right, let's trade for him. Trade for my head coach. We've seen it before. That's the only reason you give Bill Belichick an extension after the mediocrity that he's put on the field the last couple of years and the mismanagement of offense, right? You have Joe Judge and Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator a year ago, right? You don't make a determination on who the quarterback is this year each and every week, and you bench him after halftime almost every single game. Again, I question, and I'm not questioning Bill Belichick, whether they actually are trying to win. But I do know this. He's likely not to be the coach next year, and it's not going to be because he's fired and just given the money to walk out the door. He will be traded somewhere else.
Right. Also been linked in some circles with coming to Tampa if we make a move down in Florida. I don't see that happening. We've already traded for a coach once, and it was because we were immediately ready to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not in any imminence towards winning a Super Bowl currently, but the Patriots are. I mean, they're underdogs at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, and you can imagine that, right? The Chargers are not playing bad enough to be considered the worst team in football. In fact, on offense,
they play well sometimes.
Right? On offense, at times they look great, right? And I know, I mean, Khalil Mack is third in the NFL in sacks. He's got 13 sacks. He's only half a sack behind first place. But so they have the pieces, but they're going to go on the road, I think, to Los Angeles or to New England and show that they aren't the worst team in football. Because I think the Patriots are the worst team in football. And to your point, not trying to win is usually you get in that tanking conversation.
Yeah.
This is beyond beyond that.
Rondé against the Giants last weekend, they were down 3 points. They had over 2 minutes and a 2-minute warning, and he played for the field goal, which was ultimately over 2 minutes with the 2-minute warning still in their pocket. He played for the field goal, which they missed. Yeah. So I expect that the rest of the way for the Pats. So even though they're coming all the way across the country, give me the LA Chargers laying 6. Their home dogs have no chance, I think.
Right. Speaking of bad quarterbacks, is this the lowest level of quarterback play?
No, you know what, Rondé? So we heard Tom Brady 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, talking about the mediocrity in the game and how bad the product is. But quarterback play, I would say, is inconsistent. And part of it is because of us, the players, and the Players Association, which bitched and moaned about, I don't want to be on the off. I'm going to be on the field in the off season, right? I don't want to, be doing full speed drills in the off season. As a result, they collectively bargained this like minuscule amount of time in the off season, right? They have the rookie mini camp. They have the voluntary workouts. When do you develop a young quarterback? Seriously. You can't, right? There's been a lot of turnover. The Matt Ryans of the world, the Phillip Rivers, the Ben Roethlisbergers, the Eli Mannings,
Drew Brees.
All these guys retired. So they got to get replaced by guys who haven't played yet. And when do you have time to develop them? And so these kids go out there and sometimes they're just like, yeah, fuck it. I'm throwing bombs. Will Levis in his first couple of weeks. And it works because you have DeAndre Hopkins and he makes some big plays. But then as the weeks go on, he starts thinking, oh, yeah, I got this. And he starts really wondering, like, can I be a really good quarterback now without really knowing what it takes to be a really good quarterback now? And he's hesitant and he's thinking. And the reaction is just not there because they haven't seen enough. They've been developed enough. So to me, the issue isn't all these quarterbacks stink. There's no time to develop quarterbacks anymore in the offseason.
But I think that speaks to the product being bad because I watched that Monday night football game. Bears and Vikings, and I don't think I've seen two worse performances by a quarterback in a single game. And you have the extra day, right? You have the extra day to prepare. But to your point about not having time to prepare and not having time to work plays, it's the reps, right? Quarterbacks, offensive linemen, DN,
10,000 hours thing,
it's
right?
all about reps. You only as good as what you repeatedly do, and not having the time to do it, and then trying to be complicated too in your offenses, and having to learn new schemes. Like back when we were playing, you had all that time. You could have a base scheme and then work around that scheme to create different plays.
Yeah, like build off of it.
And now you can't. You absolutely don't have time to do that. And like I remember, we used to have install, and then we'd reinstall during the next camp, and then we reinstall during training camp, and then during the season we'd have all this installed already in, and then we could make any change that we wanted.
Rondé,
it was easy to be successful that way.
That brings up my favorite Sean Payton story, because we would do the same thing. You'd install it again, and then we get in the game week, and then you're installing it all over again. Right. And remember the sidekick? The sidekick just used to flip up your phone. So we'd be in a meeting, and Sean be installing something, and I'd just be on my sidekick, like, and he's like, Tiki, am I boring you? I'm like, Coach, you installed this like a month ago. Like what? He was like, and so he goes, all right, then, if I'm so boring, you come up and teach it. So I had to get up and install it.
Oh my God.
Dude, I crushed it. It was awesome.
Right.
But you're right. Like it got to the point where there was no question I knew what I was going to do.
Right.
I knew it flat because we had so much time. We spent so many meeting room hours and then walk-through hours. You had all of this time to do it, so it became second nature. It's not the case anymore.
It's definitely not the case. It's like, how many times can you install cover 2, Monty? It's literally 2 things to do. Anyways, let's take a break.
Yeah, but you know what? We're gonna do Tampa this time. That means middle linebacker. You gotta run, like run that way. Just try to get like equally in between those two guys that are deep in the back, right? You got it. Perfect. Love it. Good job, guys. Go get some coffee. Rondé, you can win a trip to the big, not you, because you're going anyways. You can win a trip to the biggest game of the year, courtesy of SuperBook Sports. SuperBook will fly you and a friend to Las Vegas for February's championship game. They'll also give you 2 tickets to the game plus a 3-night hotel stay. All you have to do is place a $25 same game parlay between now and January 7th, and you're automatically entered to win. That's all you got to do. Don't got to do nothing else, nothing special. All you got to do is place a $25 same game parlay between now and January 7th, and you're automatically entered. So wager and win a super trip to Las Vegas, courtesy of SuperBook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. This is not valid in Tennessee or Nevada. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, y'all, welcome back to Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook Sports, segment 2. It means the lead comes in from this guy. And Tiki, I am going to talk about Super Bowl windows. I love this term, Super Bowl windows. So you have the right team at the right time with the right quarterback, and there hasn't been a more talked about or probably more relevant Super Bowl window discussion than the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Likely going to take 9 and 10 wins to get there, right? Yeah. And they have a tough schedule remaining. They're 6-6 at their bye week. They lose to Philly at the death knell last week, which was actually a really good game.
Oh, it was a great game.
Great game. We're going to talk about Philly later, but talking Bills, I have to think that if they don't make it through this year, their window is slammed shut. And not only slammed shut, it almost feels like Sean McDermott's window there is slammed shut, because they have everything that you could possibly want in terms of offensive skill positions. You have a good enough defense, even though we've had the injuries on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
But if they don't make the playoffs and they continue to find ways to lose games, is their window shut?
Well, the question, Rondé, is can they win 3 or 4 of their next games? Here's how they line up. Kansas City,
yep.
Maybe, probably not. Dallas, maybe, probably not. LA Chargers, yeah, they could do that one. New England, definitely, because they're not trying. And Miami, maybe, probably not. So it's like, it's not easy for them to get to the postseason unless the AFC kind of just falls apart a little bit, because the challenge is the North, as we all know, because there's 3 teams with 7 wins already in that division. There's a good chance that 3 of the playoff teams are going to come from the AFC North. But the reality of the Bills is that they are good. Right, the number 1 offense, number 1 scoring offense, number 2 offense. They're top 10 everywhere. Like, go look statistically, throw it on a piece of paper. Man, this Bills team is great. Even look at their third down percentage, number 1. Look at the red zone TD percentage, number 2. Like, they're middle of the road defensively, so they're not bad. They can outscore you. Like, all of these things point to them being a good team, but there's something awry, and we've been saying it all season long. There's the edge, we have a lead. We're gonna step on the throat. That is gone. And when you talk about the job security of Sean McDermott, it's a real thing. I think Ken Dorsey was fired primarily not because he didn't get along with Josh Allen. He was fired primarily as a tonic to try to
galvanize the troops.
Yeah, galvanize the troops. What we were just talking about, with Frank Reich, right? To galvanize the troops, to in some ways make it look like Sean McDermott is doing something to right the wrongs. But the problem is there's not wrong with the offense. Yeah, Josh has thrown some interceptions, had too many turnovers, but hell, he always does that.
Right.
So
it's not like Pittsburgh, who actually made a firing to actually do change the offense. It worked. First time they had 400 yards in a game. That was, by the way, the craziest stat I heard all weekend. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, so the reality of the Buffalo Bills is they put themselves behind. So their window started 2 years ago. They were supposed to be in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They fell short of it. Last year, same thing. This year, it's like it's not quite closed. Like, you're getting ready to clip those things to lock it. The window's shut. It's not locked, right? And so I think the only way that they get out of this is if Josh Allen becomes the leader that everybody expected him to be, and plays at a level that we haven't seen from him yet. And he's played at an MVP level. Like, he's got to take his game to that Pat Mahomes level in order for them to do it.
I totally agree. If there's one guy that should be making the run for them, it's him. You know, I said a couple of weeks ago, if he's not Superman, they don't win football games. And we keep talking about him not being that guy, but the more I watch them lose games that they should win or could win, you're like, maybe he should just go do that and then live or die by his ability to make game-changing type plays. Because let's be honest, they are not a team that is going, at the end of the day, that's going to do more than they've already done, right? You're not going to expect them to all of a sudden become, the greatest offense in the history of the NFL. The only guy that can elevate them is their quarterback. And if he doesn't do it, they're not ever going to win a Super Bowl. And I think that window will shut this year, because you said it, the AFC North has too many teams, although I think Cleveland will probably fall off in that division. Even though they have the number one defense, their offense is just not going to be functional enough, I think, in the stretch run for them to continue to win. Speaking of the AFC
North, Thompson Robinson is
right. Yeah. Speaking of windows, what about Cincinnati's window? They're fading, right? The Bengals are fading on offense right now, fading everywhere because no Joe Burrow. They have a huge game this week, and this is a game I want to talk about before we get to our Ask Me, Ask You section. They're at Jacksonville, and they're 8.5-point dogs on the road. Is there any chance that the Bengals find a way back into the conversation? Because they were right there. They were right there before the quarterback got hurt.
So this is the Jake Browning show now down in Cincinnati. And I don't know enough about Jake Browning to have an opinion about Jake Browning.
No, I've watched. I didn't watch him play once in college.
No, I have no idea what.
I didn't watch him play in the preseason. I've only seen him play a game and a half in the NFL.
Right,
and it's unimpressive.
You're right. So when we talk about, say, the Bills, it's like, all right, Josh Allen, you got to lift this team. You got to do it. Yeah, Joe Brady's in there as well, the new offensive coordinator, but it's Josh Allen. For the Cincinnati Bengals, Rondé, it's Zach Taylor, right? It's Zach and his offensive coordinator. They have to find ways to make it simple for them. I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to get done in Cincinnati, especially against an improving Jacksonville Jaguars team who, Trevor Lawrence, I had that game last weekend against the Texans, and Trevor Lawrence just went bonkers. He had like 6 plays of 40+ yards. It was insane. Now, they made some questionable decisions, like going for it with 1 second left on the one yard line right before halftime. And Doug Peterson said, well, we were getting the ball after halftime anyway, so it's like no harm, no foul type thing. I'm like, yeah, but you almost lost, right? Just a quick aside real quick on that last kick. So Matt Amendola for the Houston Texans, it gives C.J. Stroud a ton of credit. Threw for over 300 yards again. Threw some dimes when he needed to get them in field goal range. That last kick, the line of scrimmage, was the 39-yard line. So how long is that field goal? Just thinking of in your mind, the line of scrimmage is a 39-yard long. How long is that field goal? How long should it be?
56, right?
Exactly. That's exactly my thought. But it's backed up a little bit now because they don't do it at 7 yards. It's like 7.5 to 8 yards. You know what the kick was? 58 yards. And right before he kicked it, we're on the broadcast, and I'm like, man, he looks deep. Like Johnson, the holder. He's like, man, he looks like he's set up deep. He set up 9 yards away. Rondé
missed it by a yard.
Missed it by a foot. Forget a yard. He missed it by a foot. A foot. It hasn't been talked about yet. Right. But when people ask you about that game, Matt Amendola missed which would have been a career long, a 58-yarder by a foot, because it should have been a 56.5-yard field goal instead. Anyway, my point is the Jaguars are playing.
Tangent much? Jesus.
Yeah. The Jaguars are playing good football, and I love Travis Etienne and Calvin Ridley, who sat out a year ago suspension, has started to turn into that dude.
He is that guy
for Jacksonville. So my guess is that Jacksonville is going to continue to exercise their dominance in the AFC south and clip this north team, the Cincinnati Bengals, because I don't trust the quarterback. Ultimately, comes down to quarterback play.
Right. So 8.5 seems generous, to be honest with you. Right. Yeah. In Jacksonville, I mean, Josh Allen, the defensive end or the edge rusher, is having
he's a
Pro
beast.
Bowl, all-pro type of season. Dorian, what's his name? Williams, the corner, is having a great year. The other corner, I think, is even a better player. Jacksonville is, to me, it's the team. They got an interesting run-up of games because Indy is getting hot. They just beat Tampa last week. Indy, I don't know how they're winning games, dude, but they're finding a way to win games.
They just lost Jonathan Taylor.
I know. Again.
But Zach Moss is a good player. I have that game this week, so it'll be an interesting one without JT, who was just getting back to form. But I like the Jaguars at home. I know it's a big number for against a Bengals team that was thought to be one of the contenders this year, but without Joe Burrow, I don't see it.
All right. Receivers are going to get frustrated.
Yep. Oh, you're right.
They're talking.
No, exactly right.
They're talking. Oh, all right.
That's exactly right. All right, one more break, and then we'll come back with Ask Me. Did you know that you could refer a friend and earn $50 in bonus this season? It's from SuperBook Sports. SuperBook is the most trusted name in sports wagering, and you don't want to miss their Refer a Friend bonus. All you need to do is click on that little Refer a Friend link under your profile in the SuperBook app, share the promo code with your friends, and you'll get a $50 bonus for everyone who registers using your code. So if you bring in like 2 people, it's $100. You bring in like 10 people, it's, I don't know how many, what is that? $500? It's $500. All right. So win money wagering and then win money referring this season with SuperBook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back. Last segment here. Ask Me on Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBooks. Rondé, we've waxed poetic, maybe not that high praise, but we've waxed a little bit about Josh Dobbs. But this dude was terrible on Monday night. Right. And it's like every week after that first, wow, amazing. He was there for a day and look what he did. He's just gotten worse and worse and worse. It's like the more he knows about the playbook, the worse he plays. I don't know if he's going to start after the bye. They might start Nick Mullins or Jaron Hall if he gets healthy. What's going on with Josh Dobbs? How did that deteriorate?
It's funny that you ask because it happened in Arizona. The same thing. Josh Dobbs has been on 4 teams in the span of 6 months or whatnot. Yeah. Right. He goes in. He looks impressive because he is impressive. He's a good athlete. You can tell him how easy it is for him to move around the pocket and get out of the pocket. And that first game he played after Jaron Hall got hurt, after Kirk Cousins got hurt in that same game, he just went out and didn't know the playbook and used his athleticism to showcase his skill. Now, the more he knows about the offense, the less effective he is at doing all those things. So the ball never comes out on time. He doesn't really have an understanding of what they're trying to do on offense. And so he's holding it now outside of the structure of the offense. So the more he's known, the worse he's gotten because this is who he is. I think at this point you can say that he's never going to be that kind of franchise type quarterback. It just doesn't happen. There was only one good that I saw in that game on Monday night. There was only one good throw that Josh Dobbs made where it came out on time and it looked like he was, following the reads of the system or whatnot. It's interesting that these really athletic quarterbacks rely on their athleticism so much to go make plays. And I would not be surprised if Kevin O'Connell makes a change at quarterback because they're still in it. Minnesota has still got a very high chance of getting into the playoffs, at least one of those last wild card spots. But there's no way they're going to do it with your quarterback throwing 4 interceptions like he did on Monday night. Granted, 2 of those were tips, whatever. But the reality is Josh Dobbs, I don't think, after having all this praise thrown on him, I think he's proven that he's not the guy.
Well, it's proven that why he's a backup. Right. It's a good backup.
Right.
You don't want him playing every game.
Right. You definitely don't want to play in every game. It will be interesting though to see if they go with Nick Mullins or Jaron Hall, because I kind of really wanted to see Jaron Hall.
Yeah.
And I think they were thinking that if Jaron Hall came in and performed well, it makes their quarterback decisions for next year a little bit different. But
yeah,
right now, I think everybody.
Yeah,
I think everybody
with the Giants.
Right now, everybody in Minnesota is saying, "Can we get Kirk Cousins back as soon as possible, please?" All right, here we go.
Don't know what you got till it's gone.
All right, Tiki. If you make it past the semifinal stage, you go into this group of 15 voters. You kind of already said this.
Yeah.
What is if you were gonna advocate for Tiki Barber to be a Hall of Famer? Tell me the one best thing that's going to convince everybody that you should be in. I've had to do this a bunch over the years, so now you get to answer this question.
I mean, I hate talking about myself. I'm not like you. The difference is that between you and I, ultimately, at our core, this is not genetic because it's genetically we're the same, but at our core is that, and I've said this to people, you expect adulation.
Damn right.
I am flattered by it.
Yeah.
So I do not.
I feel like I've earned it.
I don't talk about myself in that way.
Right.
But since you ask, I would say that I had my biggest games at the most important moments. So I rushed for 200 yards 5 times. I was just talking to Neil Best, who is a local media and sports writer here in New York, because he called me right after he found out that I was in the semifinals, and he said, "It's kind of cool. You just get to revisit your career a lot." So we just talked about my career and the things that I've done, the 10,000, 5,000, 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, and he said, but the thing that's interesting to me, and it's only really because we're doing Derrick Henry this weekend. Derrick Henry is tied for first all time with 200-yard games. He has 6, tied with Adrian Peterson and O.J. Simpson. I'm alone in second, but really fourth with 5. And I was just thinking about those games, and like every single one of them meant something. The first one was like 2002, where we had to win the game. I fumbled 3 times in this game against the Eagles, but I rushed for 200 yards, and Coach Fossil just kept giving me the ball. And eventually we got in overtime and kicked the game-winning field goal. And then 3 of them happened in 1 year. And
your last year?
No, it's my penultimate year. It was in 2005, which was more important because it was the season of record for Wellington Mara and Bob Tisch. That's how Coach Coughlin described it to us. Very first meeting of the year. We are the team of record because we know that both Bob and Wellington are very ill and will likely die. Like, it meant something to me that year. Right. So the first one was Washington, which was right after Wellington passed away. The second one was against the Kansas City Chiefs on a freezing night. We had to keep our playoff hopes alive. I rushed for 200 and whatever yards, 11 or something like that. And then the last one that season was against the Oakland Raiders on New Year's Eve. And I had over 200 yards, and that game got us in the playoffs. It won us the division. And so all of those games meant something. And my last one was obviously my last game of my regular season career, playing the Washington then Redskins down in D.C. and rushed for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns and got us to 8-8 and got us into the playoffs. And so I would say
perhaps saved a coach's job.
I mean, I can say that. He'll never say that. But I think my case is I was always there, was always available for a running back position that is not always available, and I had the biggest games and the biggest moments.
Nice, good answer. Now it's on record.
Yes. Oh wait, you were recording that?
Yes, I was recording that. All right, let's get to some games. First game, look. Thursday night game this week, I think, is a huge game. Seattle at Dallas. And
God, I want to believe in Seattle. I
do. I do too.
I've turned the corner on Dallas. I wanted to be a Dallas hater.
Who doesn't want to be a Dallas hater? Everybody wants to be a Dallas hater.
We grew up Washington fans.
Yeah.
I played for the Giants. I'm a double Dallas hater. But I can't ignore how well Dak Prescott is playing. and with CeeDee Lamb in this new-ish role as more of an X wide receiver at home against a Seattle team they can't help but shoot themselves in the foot.
Right. They can't score points right now is their
No,
problem.
no. And they have
Back-to-back
so many
losses. Yeah,
Yep.
they haven't gotten above 16 points in
Right.
2 weeks. And the
Right.
other loss, they didn't the 4 weeks ago. They looked even worse. So
Yeah, this is also a big number, but the one thing it consistently has happened this year is the Dallas Cowboys blow the doors off of teams at home.
yeah.
So I'm taking Dallas here, laying the 9 at home on a short week, but I don't want to admit it, but I got to.
Right. Dallas actually not on a short week, right? They played Thursday
that's
last
right.
week.
That's
So
right.
they've had it. They had even more time after, and then Seattle lost a tough game on Thursday as well, right? Did they play Thursday?
Yeah, they played the
49ers. So two teams back to back, right?
Yeah, their sequence is 49ers, Cowboys, 49ers.
Right. So to me, 9 points is a lot. You know, do I think the over is going to be covered? Absolutely. 46 points. I think if it stays true, I'm definitely taking Dallas at 46 points. Dak Prescott has been probably the best quarterback in football the last 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And again, he was a guy that we were questioning, September, October. God, is Dak not it? I think he's finally gotten used to Mike McCarthy's offense, and Mike McCarthy has gotten used to calling plays again for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And obviously the 3 running backs that they use have been playing well, and Ferguson, the tight end. Is like Dallas looks like the team that eventually was going to be competing with Philadelphia in the NFC, assuming that's not San Francisco. But so I don't, and judging by what Seattle and what Geno Smith has turned into, Geno Smith is starting to look like he was an anomaly last year, and that his regression is really to his prime. That's what he is going to be, and I don't think they have enough offense. So 9 is a lot, but I'm taking it too.
Yeah.
And then the other game, got to talk about this one. This is going to be the most talked about game for a long time. Obviously, 49ers play at the Eagles, rematch of the NFC Championship game. I think there's a couple of keys in this game for me. This one's plus 2.5 for the Eagles. They are home dogs
at 10-1.
At 10-1. I don't think I've ever heard of such a thing.
Oh, defending NFC champs.
Right.
10-1. They lost a fluke game to the Jets of all teams.
Week 1.
No. That was week 5.
Right.
Bills
week 5,
week
right.
1. The Jets won week 1 against the Bills, but a fluke loss because they played terribly and the Jets defense played great. But they're 10-1 at home,
right?
And they're defending champs, NFC champs, and they're dogs.
I think there's a couple of reasons for this.
Go ahead.
Brock Purdy has really shown that he is probably one of the better timing quarterbacks in football. Is he Joe Montana? Absolutely not. But he has shown that if the pocket's clean and everything looks right for him, he's going to have a big day. He's had big days the last 2 weeks. And I only preface that because this Philadelphia Eagles defense, I've been talking about it for a month now. They give up the 4th most yards in football. What once was like their calling card,
dominance,
dominance on defense is no longer their calling card. Right now, they're having to use Jalen Hurts, who, by the way, looks like an MVP candidate. I think it's trending highly in his favor, the way that he played against Buffalo last week. Yeah. They're only having to use him, and I don't know that the Eagles can contain a Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. Like, there's so many options. You're not talking about tight end Kittle. There's so many options on San Francisco's offense that a struggling Philadelphia defense has no chance to keep up. Now, San Francisco, if they get ahead, if San Francisco gets behind, I don't think they can catch up because they're not built like that. They have to have all those specialty plays, and that's how they step on your neck. But if San Francisco gets ahead, I think they're gonna run with this one. So I think that's why they're favorites. So for me, I am taking the 49ers on the road.
49ers. Where are you at right now?
South Florida.
South Florida. Oh, it's nice and cozy down there. Huh? Hey, you know what it was this morning? 31 degrees.
Oh,
It
so
is
we're gonna
cold
play.
as hell.
We're gonna play field condition game here.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, Brock Purdy, you know why CJ Stroud is playing really well in Houston? Bobby Slowick, offensive coordinator. Guess who he helped mentor a year ago?
Yeah, good call.
Brock Purdy. So he's used to it. So Philadelphia is one of those teams. You're right. Their defense is not even close to the dominant team that it was before. But offensively, they also have a ton of weapons. Not the run game. I think they miss Miles Sanders really a lot. But I like DeAndre Swift, right?
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is a runner as well. He's got 11 touchdowns running the football,
and he's back. He looks healthy.
He looks healthy again. And you throw in, the AJ Browns and the Devontae Smith, right? The talent is there offensively, and they can score when they need to. And I think that's the difference maker for me. I love San Francisco. They're probably the most complete team in the NFL right now, but they're coming on the road, and it is going to be chilly when they get here. And the Eagle faithful, the crazies at the link, are going to make it loud and obnoxious. And I think that impacts you in some regard. So it takes like a tick off of your edge, right? If you're on the road in Philly, you played there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that the Eagles, despite my gut being at the disadvantage, they just keep finding ways to win.
Right.
And by the way, if they don't throw the ball, I'm going back to this Jets game. If they had the lead, right? If they don't throw the ball, at the
get an interception, right?
Just run 2 plays and punt. Zach Wilson's not going to the length of the field. So he throws that interception. They have to let Breece Hall score, and they end up losing the game because they can't make a run against a really good Jet defense. This Eagles team should be undefeated. So to me, they just know how to win. So it's less about, I can, this matchup versus this matchup or this XYZ. They just know how to win. And a lot of it is because their annoying ass head coach, Nick Sirianni. He's got this, this mojo over his team. I'm serious. They just always figure it out.
So we're gonna disagree. I love it.
I disagree with this, man. Home dog in Philly, 10-1, defending NFC champs. Give me the Eagles, man.
You're only getting plus 130 if you take the Eagles on the money line. So
yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. All right, congratulations.
I'm just trying to be right.
I know. Congratulations, Tiki, on being a semifinalist for the first time in your life for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll know in January.
Yeah, we will. There's a lot of running backs. I just know it. I mean, Eddie Jordan.
There's ton.
Getting the respect we deserve.
Damn right.
Anyways, appreciate you all listening. We'll see you next week. Hopefully Rondé is, go experience some coldness.
No, I'm not.
You got a sweater on. It's like 80 degrees outside.
65.
Peace out.
See ya.
The Ronde and Tiki podcast is produced by SuperBook Sports. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Maryland, Nevada, New Jersey, Ohio, and Tennessee. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF or visit 800betsoff.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342.